I grew up in Arusha. And when I was 30 years old, I had this conversation with my uncle. It was about marriage. And he said, Hero, hamarari kuna ngoro yobo kinisuja merinya na boni lama. Opi. Did you understand what I said? I will repeat it anyway, in English. He was saying, I've seen you dating several girls, but none of them had the quality of becoming a wife, according to his definition. And he said, you need to marry a girl from your own kind, Maasai. And he said, if you marry girls from another tribe, you will have 5% differences in culture, values, and traditions. If you marry a girl from a far-off region, you will have about 20% differences. If you marry a girl from another country, talk of Ethiopia, Tunisia, South Africa, expect about 50% differences. But if you decide to pick an airplane, go to another continent, get married to another race, expect a whopping 90% differences in culture, values, and traditions. And that means, he said, you only have 10% of a chance of your marriage or your relationship surviving. After that conversation, I thought about it and I said, I think my uncle is right. So I became intentional on who I date. And I met this Maasai girl, tall, slender. It's the kind of girl you see in Kenya Airways adverts, if you remember. And I told her of my intentions that, you know what, looking for a Maasai girl. And she said, I'm looking for someone who's tall, muscular, dark skin, wide shoulders. And you can obviously see that I don't have any of those. And she said, you need to prove that you're a man, you're strong, and you're brave enough to take care of a family. So you better go kill a lion, bring a tail, and we can start talking. And I did cost-benefit analysis, and I said, this is too much of a stake. In fact, I took off. You should see a Maasai running. And this happened at a time when my two young brothers had gotten married. So you can feel the pressure. And I had to move fast. So I met this other girl. And we dated. She was also Maasai. Skin like mine, same height. And I thought, this is good for me. And we dated for a year. We were just lovebirds. Yeah, awesome girl. And after a year, we decided to take our relationship to the next level. We started planning for our wedding. I shared the news with my friends, my relatives. If I knew all of you in this room, I would have also shared the news with you. And I started saving for my wedding. And I told her, I think I need to come meet your parents. And she said, let it marinate a little bit. And I waited for 2 months. I brought the matter again, and she said, Oltesh, good things take time. Let it cook. Let it simmer a little. And I waited. After a few months, I went back and I said, Namelok, that was her name. Namelok, meaning sweetie. I think it's time I come see your parents. And she said, I'm sorry. If you did not get it, I was actually dumped. Have you ever been dumped? It's not a good feeling. It should not happen to you. I'd rather you get hit by a truck than think that. That hit me like thunderbolt. I lost self-confidence. I lost self-esteem. And I used to be cool, you know. I lost my cool. I lost appetite. Can you imagine a Maasai losing appetite for meat? I only took water. When they say water saves lives, it saved me. And for 3 months, I was really down. And when I say down, I mean down. But I said, I had to talk to myself and say, life has to move on. So I let go. And when I let go, I realized that I had actually saved 20 million Tanzanian shillings. Equivalent to 1 million Kenyan shillings. And I said, I just need to get out of this environment. So I decided to go to UK for a master's. Did all the arrangements and I flew out. When I got to UK, I expected that the 1 million Kenyan shillings would get me going, but I was wrong. The money was running out. I had to pay for my school fees. And I started looking for a job. So every time after school, I'll go out, day in, day out, knocking doors, looking for a job. And there were none. And for 3 months, a friend tells me that, Oltesh, what kind of a job are you looking for? And I said, I want to work in an office as an accountant or a clerk or, pushing papers. And he said, you're completely wrong. That's not a kind of a job for a student like you. So he said, the only jobs available for you are cleaning, security, waiting tables in a bar or a nightclub. And when I decided to go for those jobs, I was actually called for an interview. It was 31st October 1998. And after the interviews, I went back home. But on the way, I had to connect trains. And I was at this train station, Leytonstone in London. It was cold, it was windy, and it was raining. And I was thinking of the beautiful weather back home. But then my thoughts were interrupted by this noise, like someone hitting the table. And the noise grew louder and louder and louder and louder. When I looked back, I saw this young, beautiful, gorgeous girl pulling her luggage trolley through the tiles. She had these black trousers, an orange jacket, sunrise golden hair hanging on her shoulders, chisel-shaped nose. She was just beautiful, by the word. And she stood right next to me. And I had this feeling. Do you know, my heart was just beating randomly. Pop, 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 pop. I looked at her. She looked at me. And she smiled. That smile, I can assure you, If this room was dark, we wouldn't need Kenya power. And this soothing and melodic voice, she said, "Excuse me, do you know where 65 Asheville Road is?" She was holding out a piece of paper with a map, and I said, "Of course I do." So I picked our luggage, and we started off to 65 Asheville Road. And on the way, I asked, "So, what brings you to London?" And she says, "I came here for an English course." "And where exactly are you from?" She said, "I'm from Switzerland." I said, "Okay, so how long are you here for?" She said, "I'm here for 3 months." When she said 3 months, I said, "Yes!" Because 3 is my lucky number. I was born on the 3rd. I have 3 daughters. So we found 65 Asheville Road after 3 hours. And I continued. I went home. I had a troubled night. I could not sleep. 2 things were bothering me. One, this black man from Africa, a Maasai from Namberia, Arusha, being asked for directions by a white girl from Switzerland. Do you know I would put that in my CV? The second thing that was bothering me is this girl, her mind, just kept replaying. You know the TV commercials that they play 24 hours? So it was a Sunday, it was just a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. By Saturday, I gave up. I said, I need to go look for this girl. So I showed up at her door. Howdy. And she opened. And she said, "Hi." I said, "Hi." She said, "What are you doing here?" And I was, what do I say? What would you have said? So I said, I was meeting a friend down the road, and I thought I should check on you. She said, "I'm fine. So how can I help you?" And I said, "I know you're lonely, you're new. Do you mind if I can invite you for a drink?" Which she gladly accepted. We started dating. But after 3 months, she had to go back to, and I was what? Oh. And when she got back, she shared the news with her parents. She said, "I found the love of my life." And they're like, "In 3 months? What?" And this boy, where is he from? And she said, "He's from Africa." Africa? And she said, and what does he do? And she said, "He's a student." And they're like, "Sandra, you cannot be serious. We have always told you to get married to a man with good prospects. Now you have ended up with a student." And they asked, "But this man from Africa, where exactly is he from?" And she said, "He's Maasai." And they're like, "What? You mean the guys who don't put on trousers?" She had a rough time. After 3 years, it was time for me to go back to Tanzania. And I shared the news with my folks. And the first question was, "Can she milk the cows?" I said, "No." "Does she speak Maasai?" I said, "No." I could feel the tension. But we continued with our relationship. And in 2001, I went to Switzerland for 3 months. And I expected that we will have an enjoyable, quiet time, but it turned out to be the most difficult period of our relationship. We quarreled all the time. There was a lot of stress in the house, burnout. We argued on each and everything, even on where a plate and forks and knives should sit on the dining table. And I could hear my uncle saying, "I told you." 90% differences. And towards the end, I just concluded that I think it's time for me to go back home and just kill a lion. And I remember at the airport, just before checking in, it was time to say our final goodbyes. But something somehow, and I don't know when and how, till today I'm still asking myself, how was it possible? We decided that Sandra would come to Tanzania for 2 weeks, and we give it another shot, to which she came. My brother and I picked her at the airport, and we had this Peugeot 504, quite an old car, and it had a broken exhaust. Right behind, right under the seat where Sandra was seated. And there was this heat seeping into the car. And Sandra said, is this car burning? And I said, no, that's our heating system. We got home. But then I was anxious because I was looking forward to see how my parents would react. I had no problem with my mom. We were good friends, just like all the moms in this house. But my dad was a challenge, tough guy. But the next thing I see after the introductions, Sandra and my dad were sitting at the front porch, smoking. And my dad went like, these cigarettes from Europe are very light. They became smoking buddies. I know that cigarettes kill. But they saved my relationship. The next trip was to my grandma. And we got there, and she offered to prepare tea in a cooking pot perched on stones using firewood. And Sandra was watching this 80-year-old lady preparing tea for us, and she could not just stand it. So she offered to help. And as she was blowing the fire, and there was this smoke that was hitting her eyes, she was coughing and tearing. And my grandma looked at me and looked at Sandra. And she looked at me and she said, Morule, ya maji na selenge. Son, this is the girl you should marry. It has been 19 years. Since I met Sandra at the train station. And I have the pleasure of introducing to you this girl that I married. Nanyora, wo na roi, wo re, wo re. Wo ramu here. Ma ba yeroi. Whoa, mana, whoa. Ngo na roi. Ngo.